right. Well, everybody that is on this podcast, this is Aaron. Aaron is, we've been friends for a couple of years now. You remember at the gym, you moved to Arizona. And I'm really excited that you were the one that asked this particular question. And once you ask your question or however you want to phrase this, I'll tell you why I'm excited that you're the one that asked this question. So this is Aaron, everybody. Say hi. Yay.
Hey.
So yeah, go ahead, man. Give it a shot.
Yeah, my kind of question / concern / rumor or whatever you want to call it just has to do around strength and whether CrossFit can help you get maximum gains as far as strength is concerned. It's just my belief that every, no matter what you're doing, whether what sport you're in, whether it's unloading groceries or, competing professionally, like the stronger you are, the better. Like strength is always just going to help you, period. Yes. So, however, I think, once you get to, if you're coming off the couch and just getting started, then absolutely you're going to see some strength gains by doing CrossFit, just by getting out and lifting weights and moving and whether it's body weight or whatever, you're going to get a little bit stronger. But once you start getting to a point that, say you want to compete or, for me, a goal, I want to perform better in the open this year, strength is going to help you. And my concern with CrossFit is that if you're not programming around strength gains per se, which in my opinion would be kind of, progressive overloading is how you're going to gain strength. CrossFit is not programmed in that way. It's a little bit more sporadic in a way. It's not structured around strength gain. It's so therefore I feel like I'm not going to make large gains in, say, my back squats just by doing CrossFit, or I'm probably going to have a much more difficult time hitting a maximal deadlift, if I'm not deadlifting heavy all the time. If I'm doing sets of 20 here or 5 sets of 10 or whatever it calls for, I'm not really building all that much strength per se. So that was kind of my thing. Once you get to that certain point, you have to go outside of CrossFit and do some extra workouts, strength, workouts to get those gains. So that was kind of my question, concern, rumor, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, so the direct answer to that, what's the limitation on CrossFit's ability to give you maximal strength gains? And the answer to that is yes, CrossFit is limited as far as how much it's going to impact maximal strength gains, right? However, the caveat to that is many CrossFit gyms and gym owners and coaches, we pride ourselves on our programming. Like that's a big point of pride for CrossFit coaches and CrossFit gym owners in general. What I have seen happen, and I fell victim to for a long time, is we get away from the intent of CrossFit because we get attracted by like the really, sexy Metcons and like the really ridiculous like hero workouts, and those are all well and good. But I had the opportunity last year at this time, I had the opportunity to study for my level 3 exam for CrossFit, which is insanely hard to get. And you really have to dive deep and know your CrossFit stuff. In the midst of doing that, I realized that the popular way that many gyms program their CrossFit isn't actually CrossFit. If you actually take the model that was given to us by the founder and the original certification instructors, the trainers, those high-level folks, you're hitting strength specifically as a strength-focused day once every 8 to 10 days. Okay, so you're having a day once every 8 to 10 days where there is no Metcon, there is no, extra work. It's literally we are going to do heavy squats today. We are going to do heavy presses today, whatever that is. So it becomes extremely helpful. Now, over this last year, this year's a little weird for everybody because of COVID and a lot of at-home workouts and things like that. But since we've shifted to that kind of model, even in the truncated amount of time we've had this year, we've seen people like your mom, for example, has been a member for a long time. She's been in it officially 8 years. In some of the workouts, like, she's kind of stagnant as far as like load she's using, things like that. But, in the last, I want to say 8 weeks, she's had different lifts that she's PR'd, where she's gone up in weight, even though she's 8 years deep into it, which is cool to see and really exciting for her. And then she goes, she gets like a 10-pound PR, and then she goes for another 5 and misses it and gets all mad. She's like, dang it. But to that point, it's like focus is not specifically that. It's not specifically maximal strength. We're going to provide a level of high strength, right? We want to be intermediate to advanced lifters, but maybe not elite, maybe not competitive. Now, you bring up a point in, like, if you want to go beyond that, yeah, you do have to seek out other programming, and that can come from the coaches in a CrossFit box. Like, there are CrossFit boxes that you have people who have strength and conditioning backgrounds. They have powerlifting backgrounds. They have strongman backgrounds. And that's their passion. That's their love. And they realized that CrossFit was a way to get people interested in, hey, let me get you on a barbell. Let me get you on some weird stuff like one of the Atlas stones or something to that effect. But because it's happening in a class setting where you're having fun, it's less intimidating. So, in a way, CrossFit becomes like a gateway drug almost for those people that want to get into strength training specifically, right? If you want to go into like powerlifting, CrossFit is a great way to get into that and then also supplement what you're doing there. And that's kind of the point of CrossFit. The point of CrossFit is GPP, general physical preparedness. So, if you're somebody who wants to be a strength competitor, CrossFit is something that can supplement that and keep the rest of your body in balance while you chase those big strength gains. Because while you chase those big strength gains, like if that's all you do, there are things that will fall off, right? Like your ability to do certain gymnastic movements, like, big sets of pull-ups or rope climbs or different things like that will start to kind of diminish. Now, whether or not that's your goal, right? That's part of that personalization process. What is the goal for you from a fitness standpoint? What are you chasing? Then we can start tweaking that. But as far as like general physical preparedness and most people who get into CrossFit, like they either got into it because they saw the games and they're like, oh, I want to do that. Or, a friend told them about it and they got really fit and they're like, yeah, come with me. And they're just trying to sweat for an hour.
So I guess wouldn't it make sense? I'm just thinking, like you said, with the pull-ups or the rope climbs, if, I'm just wondering, would you really see a slip in that area if I went and did some heavy strength programming over a period of time, whether it's 1 or 2 months, and came back? Wouldn't I then be better at rope climbing because I've been focused on heavy presses and heavy power cleans? And, isn't that going to just improve me all around in the CrossFit world? My box jumps are going to be better because I've worked on strength gains in my legs for the last 2 months of doing heavy squats and heavy deadlifts. Isn't that going to make me a better competitor? And I could see my conditioning may fall off a little bit, but there's conditioning gain. There's conditioning benefits even to lifting heavy. That's still a cardiovascular workout, lifting heavy weights. Mm-hmm. So that's what I guess I'm wondering. Does that ever make sense to maybe break from the CrossFit programming, depending on your goals, of course? Right. To do some focus on strength for a period of time and then come back to the CrossFit programming.
Yeah. So really quick, I forgot about this. So the reason that I'm excited you're the one that asked this is because you are actually you are the strongest human being I personally know. Like you have some of the biggest lifts I've met dudes that are like strongmen and stuff like that, but I don't know them. I've shook their hand one time. Like, so this was exciting for me because this is a passion for you. Like this, the idea of maybe not quite like elite level powerlifting, but big, heavy lifts. Like that's a passion for you. And I love that. But to kind of answer that question, like, so to bounce that off of like, so you had said earlier, like your goal this year would be to compete better in the open or do better in the open, right? The CrossFit Open, which for those people who don't know, the CrossFit Open is the largest participatory event in the world. It happens in CrossFit boxes around the world. This year it'll happen. It starts the last week of February and it's 5 weeks long. It's a pretty cool event. Even if you're not a member of a CrossFit box, go hang out with your friends that are for a couple of weeks and just watch them do it. It's a ton of fun. So that's where you get into the specificity of it, right? If your goal is to be a CrossFit competitor, then if you're looking to do better in the open, the best thing to do is CrossFit. But you have to do it within the I don't want to say confines because that sounds really restrictive, but that's the best thing I can come up with. You have to do it within the confines of the template that CrossFit is, right? It's so the idea of CrossFit is increased work capacity over broad time and modal domains. Meaning, I want to be able to be an advanced weightlifter, an advanced gymnast, an advanced endurance competitor, right? So I'm going to outlift any runner or gymnast that I come across, but I'm going to have better gymnastic skills than any lifter or runner that I come across. I'm going to have better endurance than any lifter or gymnast that I come across. So it's taking those dials and moving them in a specific way to get optimal performance across a whole bunch of domains, right? When you come back and you talk about, all right, well, wouldn't some heavy stuff make me better? In theory, yes. If that's where you're lacking. If you're somebody who you're great, like we have members here they're great endurance athletes, they have pretty solid gymnastics. Gymnastics meaning like pull-ups, push-ups, squats, handstands, rope climb, muscle ups, things like that. They're pretty good at those things, but maybe their lifting is like their limiting factor, right? So for somebody like that, if they really wanted to improve, then as a coach, I have to say, okay, you're good at these things. You're lagging a little bit behind compared to that for you. So we need to bring this up a level. So yeah, then in that case, we would sit down and say, okay, let's program some extra strength training, but we wouldn't want to leave CrossFit behind per se, because if your goal is to be a better CrossFitter and a better, broad generalist, which is kind of what CrossFit is, then you can't just leave it behind. It has to be in there as a part of it, but then you maybe bias the training towards the strength aspect of it, which is cool. But that's the cool thing about CrossFit is if that's where you're lagging, maybe we have like, so the classic CrossFit rep count is 21, 15, 9, right? So maybe in a workout like Fran, right? We're getting ready to do Fran here in about 4 weeks because we do it for my birthday every year. So there we go.
Happy birthday to everybody else, I guess, huh? Thanks.
Yeah, right, exactly. My birthday gift to everybody. Here, let's do Fran. But if you're somebody who okay, you're really great at pull-ups and thrusters at lightweight, but we're going to work on strength for the next 6 weeks. We're going to work on strength. So maybe instead of having you do 21, 15, 9, maybe I scale that back and we go 12, 9, 6, and you got to do super strict pull-ups and a heavier thruster, right? I can bias that as a coach within your own personal training, right? Or maybe what we do is, hey, you're going to do Fran, but then, after that workout or later that day, or maybe before that workout, you're going to do a heavy cycle of presses or front squats or something to that effect that's going to make you better at that place where you're lacking, if that's where you're lacking, right? So when it comes to like absolute maximal gains, like if you want to be an elite level lifter, CrossFit's probably not the sport for you, but it can be a supplement to keep you in balance. If you're a CrossFitter who wants to get stronger, then I think the approach is kind of like that. It's like, okay, I'm really good at these things, but I'm lacking in the lifting. Okay, how do I bias and make that better? So it becomes a supplement rather than a replacement.
Yeah, and I guess that's another thing I've wondered is what, like you're saying, there's a point where you don't need to get any stronger. Like, and the people I think about are, some, folks, especially our older folks, where, we just want to make sure that you're not going to get extremely injured from falling. You can do your day-to-day activities with no, stress or strain. But I guess my question, and everybody's different, is like, where is that point where you don't, how do we get you up to that level of saying, okay, this is you're at a solid place strength wise. We really don't need to focus on strength anymore. Now we can start focusing on maintaining, through CrossFit. Would it make sense to have people, coming in to assess them and say, okay, out the gate, we're going to focus on strength for you because you are just, you're just not there. You don't have, the muscular buildup that you need. So let's get you up to par strength wise. And then we can get you in here doing, getting competitive with these workouts.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Or do you think that's just, or CrossFit is just enough,
Well, for me, coming out of, a traditional like ACSM background and then migrating to CrossFit, that's what I like about it is the format of CrossFit allows me to, take somebody who maybe their biggest issue is they're just not strong enough to move yet. I may or may not put them in a class setting just out of the gate. So that's something we have at our gym. Like if you come into my gym and you're fresh off the couch, like I'm not throwing you directly into class, right? You may have athletic background and all this other stuff. Like I'm going to make sure that you and I are going to do a workout one-on-one, and I'm going to assess how things are going. And many CrossFit gyms do that. Not all of them, but many of them. And then that gives me control over that environment, and I can make an assessment from there. And then from there, I can give a recommendation of, hey, you know what? Like, we really need to work on making sure that you move well and have control over that before I throw you into a class, because the class, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, is like you get into a class settings, you get a little competitive. If you're not moving well and you can't handle moving your body correctly, and then now you put a load on a barbell or a dumbbell that you're not ready for, then yeah, like that's going to cause an issue. But, if somebody's coming in looking for general fitness, largely I need to get them moving and moving well, understanding where their body's at in space. And those kinds of progressions happen really well in class. As long as, and this is always the caveat, as long as your coach knows what they're doing and is paying attention, right? And maybe that's a discussion for another day, is like, you have gyms out there who, and this is where some of the bad reputation for CrossFit comes, is like they just put the workout on the board and you come in and the coach goes, okay, here's the workout. And maybe they show you the movement and then they just cut you loose. And then those are the people, kind of like what you're referring to, those are the folks that fall through the cracks. Like, dude, they really need this, but they're not strong enough to move a 10-pound dumbbell yet. And you're telling them that they have to have a barbell and they don't know what they're doing. And they end up falling through the cracks because they don't know how to get through that. And so that's where, if you're going to a CrossFit gym and you're not getting genuinely coached and progressed through, even within the context of the class, you need to find a new gym. And I had this conversation with another gym owner yesterday. And I don't know how these all are going to come out in order yet, but he and I had that conversation. Like, dude, if you're paying for a gym membership that is supposed to include coaching and that's not happening, then you need to find a new gym. And that's to your point. Like, you're going to have these people come in who their biggest gap is, like, maybe they've got great endurance, but they can't do a bodyweight squat. So why am I going to throw them in class? Well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But even if I am going to throw them in class, I'm going to make sure that they're moving well with the appropriate, loading for their ability. And then within the context of those classes, that progressive overload is kind of embedded in CrossFit if it's done well. And again, it's something that I really got an education in over the last year. And, over the several months that I studied for that level 3 exam, like that's what CrossFit is originally meant to do. And if we do it the way it's supposed to be done, that happens within the context of class. But those folks that just like, we're just looking for quality of life stuff, then, you bring up a good question. Like, where's the limit for that? Well, I think that's that, like, it depends on their goal, right? Like, what is your goal? Is your goal to run the 5K next year with your friends? Is it to show up to a powerlifting meet and lift in the Masters division? Is it to do better in the CrossFit Open? Like, okay, now we can focus some of that stuff. Or is it just like, hey, I want to go up my stairs and not be out of breath? So
yeah, that's right. That makes sense, man. And I think that's a reason why I love you and love your coaching style, and you treat all your members like family, and you're going to make sure that everything's tailored to your clients and that you're doing things the right way. And I appreciate that about you, man. I know you put a lot of work in the background into that stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. We try to, and the more I learn, the more the more I get to invest that into our members here, and conversations like this is an opportunity for me to learn. And then now what's going to happen is over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to take this conversation. It's going to be in my head. Like, okay, is there anybody here that really needs that kind of like biasing, within the context of the class? Because this is stuff that, CrossFit's founder talks about in some of his lectures. Like, within the context of a class, you should be able to do these things for your clients. You have the time to do it, so leverage that. You can bias CrossFit a little bit towards specific goals if need be. But if people are just looking for general fitness, those kinds of things, like, those incremental strength gains come with, I don't want to say proper, but, traditional CrossFit programming. And people think of traditional CrossFit programming as like tons and tons of barbell all the time. And it's definitely not that. So,
no.
But, to that point, and to the point that you're bringing up specifically, like, is CrossFit a place, if you're really looking to get crazy strong, is CrossFit a place to do that? Maybe not. Is it a place where you can start? Absolutely. Like I said, CrossFit is a gateway drug for a lot of stuff. USA Powerlifting, USA Weightlifting, and USA Gymnastics have all seen spikes in membership because of CrossFit. You have CrossFitters that are, they use CrossFit to be fit, and they like hang out with their friends and their family here, but then like they're training for powerlifting, they're training for Olympic weightlifting, they're training, there's kids who they've gotten into gymnastics because mom and dad got into CrossFit and realized how important gymnastics is. And so now they're taking their kids to gymnastics, which is freaking awesome. Now those kids aren't sitting playing video games all day. They've got a 2-hour break where they go to gymnastics, like,
yeah.
So, So, thanks for asking that question, man. It's a great conversation to have, especially for, to be really specifically blunt and honest about it. It's a conversation that is mostly in the heads of guys. How can I get stronger if I'm going to do CrossFit? And so it's that conversation of, dude, you can use CrossFit to get started, get to, spend 6, 8, 10, 12 months doing CrossFit specifically, see where it can get you. And then if you decide like, having a 3-minute Fran is really cool, but I want a 600-pound deadlift. All right, well, then let's go that direction. But, that comes into that, like what we keep saying, what are your goals? Where are we going? So.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. And like I said, you got some ideas flowing in my head too, so that I'll be taking back and trying to mess with a little bit too. You know?
Yeah, totally, man. Well, the Open is less than 100 days away.
I know that's a goal, man. That's a goal. As we're talking, I'm going, okay, you can do this. You can go from couch to CrossFit Open in 100 days if you're smart about it.
Yeah. So as you do that, here's my piece of coaching, because I can't not coach. This is what I do, right? The Open is primarily a test of motor. So if you can get your cardio dialed in, the Open is going to go better for you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for being a part of this, man. I appreciate it.
No, appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I love you and the family, and praying for you guys, and yeah, keep pressing on. Something I admire about you, man, is your persistence and perseverance, and just continuing to follow what you've been called to do, and that's awesome, man. That's admirable. So you're an inspiration to me, and I'm sure a lot of others.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that a lot, man.
Yes, sir.
Praying for your family. We love you. We miss you. We'll see you soon. All right.